The town of Red Hollow had a habit of laughing at the wrong people. They laughed at the drifter who spoke too softly. They laughed at the preacher who stuttered. And they laughed hardest at her, the widow who'd buried two husbands and carried the weight of both. Her name was Ada Rowan, and the folks whispered that misfortune followed her like a stray hound. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was cursed and didn't know it yet. But fate has a peculiar ear. And it was listening that spring. On the western ridge lived a quiet cowboy named Elias Grant. A man so reserved, dogs didn't bark at him, they simply stepped aside. He kept to himself, tended horses, and rode into town only when his pockets rattled empty. One evening, as the sun bled red across the prairie, Ada Rowan climbed Elias's porch with something clenched in her hand. Her breathing shook. Her shadow trembled. She said, "Elias, I came to ask you to marry me." A proposal so unexpected. Even the wind paused to listen.
Elias.
Elias, I came to ask you to marry me.
And from inside the saloon, from porches, from half-broken windows, the town burst into laughter loud enough to rattle every lantern on the street. A cursed widow, proposing to a quiet cowboy? A match made in foolishness, they said. But Elias didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He only stared, as if the world had slowed around her. Elias stood there, jaw locked, knife still in his hand. He looked at Ada like a man cornered by a truth he'd tried to ignore. Ada whispered, "I don't want to be alone anymore." Silence fell. A heavy silence, one that tasted like iron and regret. Finally, Elias spoke. "Yes." The town's laughter turned to stunned whispers. Some spat the dust from their lips. Others muttered that Elias must have lost his senses. And a few, a cruel few, waited eagerly for the curse to strike again. They married 2 days later under the cottonwood tree at Hollow Creek. No music. No cheers. Just the preacher, a book of vows, and two souls trying not to tremble. Elias slid a simple iron ring onto her finger. Ada wiped a tear she hoped he didn't see. The preacher closed his book, said, "May God protect you both." But the way he said it, it sounded more like a warning. For a few weeks, Red Hollow behaved like any other frontier town. Suspicious of joy, waiting for it to crack. Elias worked the ranch from dawn to nightfall. Ada cooked, mended fences, rekindled the hearth. And slowly, the house began to look less like a cabin, and more like a place where a heart might heal. But every time she rode into town, eyes followed her like vultures. Some said her first husband died mysteriously. Others swore the second had gone mad. And every whisper carved deeper into her soul. Trouble arrived with the dust. 3 riders crested the ridge one morning, silhouettes dark against the rising sun. Ada saw them first. Elias recognized the lead rider instantly. Jonas Pike, Ada's late husband's brother. A man carved from spite. A man who believed Ada owed him something, and believed she'd taken even more. He dismounted slowly, dust curling around his boots like smoke. "Elias," he said, "I'm here for what belongs to the Pike family." Elias stepped forward. "Ada doesn't belong to anyone." Jonas grinned. A grin too sharp to be human. "I'm not talking about the woman." He pointed at the cabin. "I'm talking about the land." Inside the cabin, Ada broke. She confessed to Elias that her first husband had purchased the land using a loan from the Pike family. A loan that was never repaid. A loan Jonas now intended to collect even if it meant violence. The curse people whispered about? It wasn't magic. It was debt. Violence. And a family with long, sharp memories. And Ada carried it all on her back. Elias sat at the table, staring at his rifle. Ada placed her hand on his arm. "Don't fight them," she whispered. "They won't stop. You'll die. And I can't bury a third husband." His jaw clenched. Fight and risk leaving her truly alone. Or surrender the land, the home, the life they'd just begun. Either way, something precious would be lost. D8 moment of cowardice. Image anchors, horse saddled, suitcase on porch, rain beginning. At dawn, Elias saddled a horse and packed a small leather bag. He told Ada, "We'll leave the land. Start over somewhere quiet." But Ada saw through the lie. He wasn't saving them. He was running from the Pike family, from the fight, from the town's judgment, from the weight of his own fear. Her voice broke as she said, "Your fear is killing us faster than any bullet." Elias froze. But he could not bring himself to stay. He rode off, leaving Ada alone on the porch. As rain began to fall, it was the one moment of his life he would never stop regretting. That night, Jonas Pike and his men returned. The storm covered their footsteps. The darkness hid their intent. Ada lit a lantern and stepped out into the yard, rain pouring down her face like tears. She wasn't running. Not anymore. Jonas approached, soaked and grinning. "You always were a stubborn woman." Ada held the lantern high. "This land is mine. I'll leave it when I'm dead." Jonas smiled wider. "That can be arranged." Just as Jonas raised his gun, a distant thunder rolled across the ridge. Not thunder. Hoofbeats. Only one horse, riding fast enough to tear the rain apart. Elias. He'd ridden all night, lightning striking overhead, mud clinging to his coat. Fear still clung to his bones. But love pulled harder. He burst through the storm like a specter, slid off his horse, and stood beside Ada, chest heaving, rain pouring down his face. "You won't touch her." Jonas's grin finally cracked. The yard lit up with gunmetal glints as both sides drew their weapons. Rain hammered the earth. Lantern light flickered, threatening to die. Jonas stepped forward. "You're too late, Grant." Elias raised his revolver with a steady hand. "I was too late once. I won't be again." A shadow moved behind Jonas. One of his men flanked left. Another crept right. Ada saw it first. Elias. Gunfire erupted like lightning splitting a tree. The fight was brutal. Close. Desperate. The lantern fell into the mud, its flame sputtering. Silhouettes lunged and staggered in the storm-dark yard. Elias dropped the first man with a clean shot to the shoulder. The second rushed him. They grappled, slipping in the mud, fists flying. A shot rang out. Ada screamed. Elias staggered back, hand pressed to his ribs. Jonas laughed through the rain. "Told you the curse would get you." He raised his gun to finish it. Ada moved faster than anyone expected. She grabbed Elias's fallen rifle from the mud. Her hands shook. Not from fear, but from fury long buried. Jonas turned toward her. "Girl, don't." Ada pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the valley. Jonas fell to his knees, clutching his chest, shock in his eyes. The rain washed the blood into the earth. Ada whispered, "I'm done being cursed." Jonas collapsed. The storm began to ease. As dawn broke, the storm clouds drifted apart. The world smelled of wet soil and gunpowder. Ada knelt beside Elias, hands pressed to his wound. "Stay with me," she begged. Elias managed a faint smile. "Told you. I'm not leaving." She laughed through tears. For the first time since the day she'd worn her first wedding ring, Ada Rowan felt the weight on her shoulders lighten. Elias healed slowly. Jonas Pike's men never returned. And Red Hollow fell silent around Ada Rowan. Not from laughter, but from respect. The widow who'd been mocked, scorned, dismissed, stood taller than any soul in town. She hadn't just kept her land. She'd kept her heart. And the town learned something that spring. Mock a widow if you dare. But understand one thing. Some curses don't follow a woman. Some curses are the men who try her. And she broke hers with a single, steady shot. In Red Hollow, they never laughed at Ada Rowan again. And they never whispered about her curse. Because the only curse left in that valley was the memory of those who underestimated her. Yeehaw, partners! Saddle up for more untold tales of the Wild West. Smash that like, subscribe, and share button to keep the frontier alive.